I, what's really going on? Bitcoin cryptocurrency going to be taking a look at LTC against USDT on the Binance chart. Litecoin price action. We're going to be looking at some of the technical aspects of price action moving forward. Going to be assessing some of the kind of key levels here. I believe we're going to be interacting with in the kind of near future as we kind of see this upcoming resistance as we are having this very significant bounce off of this kind of $200 kind of level there. Coming out of a very aggressive, 30-something% dip from a swing high back in middle of April. And so now we're going to be assessing if we're going to continue upward or this is call for kind of more downward. Now jumping into it to kind of recap price action that has respected this kind of ascending trend line since the end of October of 2020. We've had bounces upward and retests kind of it along the kind of ways. We'd have these periods of upward movement along with periods of kind of up and down sideways. Prices would accumulate in what would appear to be a more like bearish manner, so they would accumulate sideways kind of downward, would then eventually break upward, allowing you to almost get kind of more of the kind of move. And so we'd have almost like tens of days of kind of sideways after these kind of tens of days of upward. And so we're now coming out of this most recent kind of like 30 days of kind of sideways-ish before we found support along $177, and we were successfully able to break through resistance kind of above 206 and under 226. There was kind of a significant range that I believe we were going to have to kind of interact with and start closing above before we can kind of move forward. And so upon breaking through and closing above this ascending trend line again that we were interacting with back in last year, we had some significant candle closes above, but this blow off top occurred and momentum kind of exhausted as the whole kind of crypto market sold off, and we're coming out of this now kind of 38% kind of pullback that we came all the way back down to the 205 level there. And so from that pullback, we've recovered all the way back up to $270, which is pretty much a good 30% in a week, which is like a perfect kind of take profit level for many traders, I do believe. And we could very well see this kind of candle come back to kind of previous levels and pull back to kind of maybe around 263 in the kind of very short term. If we are not volatile enough to kind of continue straight upward, I suspect in the kind of short term, we could perhaps see interaction underneath this kind of ascending trend line here. If this candle were to continue upward, kind of come like that, I do suspect prices to perhaps interact kind of upward and along the bottom of this ascending trend line, as we kind of will need to have some kind of sideways. But we could very well get rejected from this bottom of this kind of line here and see it as resistance and kind of come all the way back down to previous levels that we came to. I suspect this kind of purple zone here, above 226 and above 205 there is kind of the, this is kind of the bottom. I do believe like a local bottom. If we were to come down and consolidate in a more bearish manner, we could very well consolidate in like a kind of like almost like descending triangle rather, sorry. And like if we were to, kind of consolidate like that, that would be a more descending triangle type pattern, which is not impossible for Litecoin at the moment, as we are very up in a very kind of short amount of time. Even from October, this isn't even that kind of much data. And so in terms of the grand scheme of things, we're up 470% in kind of less than a year. And so there's definitely plenty of traders taking profit, and there's plenty of opportunities to be making gains still. And so when we consider EngineeringRobo, we kind of see a new perspective kind of come into play when we can see the Fibonacci lines and the fear and FOMO zone, indicating what is going to be a kind of key volatile zone there above $424, which I do believe is not far-fetched for Litecoin in its kind of lifetime. We can have some interaction sort of sideways for a kind of period of days or weeks before we can kind of interact with the kind of FOMO zone there, but I do believe that is pending over the coming months. The current sell signals present are the supercell, sell for, and hell signal, which are quite significant, and we're this sell-off was bearish enough to allow for these sell signals to print, and so currently we still seem to be recovering off of these kind of key Fibonacci levels, and we're interacting with the zone kind of above the 0.618 line and under the 0.786. It does seem to be a key zone that I do believe we kind of could interact with in the kind of near future moving forward if we can't kind of start closing above the 268 kind of dollar range there. And so what's different about these kind of current sell signals that is different than these kind of other times these sell signals have flashed during sideways is we've had this moon signal present during all of these kind of like buy 4 to sell 4, sell 2, sell 3 flips during this very aggressive sell-off and sideways, and Litecoin would have to accumulate in a more bearish manner before it would continue upward. And so the sell-offs are hard enough to print sell signals, but we've always had this kind of moon in the long term showing us that we can inevitably break upward. Although in this kind of new case, we have the supercell, sell 4, and the hell finally printing. That's all I mean. Say you bought from the moon in back in the FOMO zone there, or the fear zone, and that green zone there is the fear zone, to the kind of hell signal before the FOMO zone, you're up 300% in 185 days. And so that alone is like crazy gains still. And so I mean, there's plenty of traders taking profit. There's plenty of gains to be made at Litecoin along the way. There's plenty of traders making gains along the way. And so this is definitely a very kind of key take profit level and a kind of key sell-off zone. But I do believe we're kind of just in another phase of kind of bearish accumulation that might take perhaps tens of days if it needs to before it can kind of recover, because we do have kind of more significant sort of sell signals present. And so I suspect perhaps we're going to consolidate in kind of a bearish manner toward this kind of purple zone there. Is kind of my sort of midterm analysis and perspective is kind of on Litecoin at the moment. Long-term bullish, but like midterm sort of sideways, I guess you could say. If we were to consider the price of Litecoin against the price of Bitcoin, we can see upon recovering very nicely along this kind of zone under 34.26 Satoshi and above 32.97 Satoshi, we rallied very nicely since the kind of beginning of this month. All the way till the middle of April there. We got rejected off of the kind of middle of this purple Satoshi zone around 53.63 Satoshi at a 62% gain in 20 days. Now we've been rallying kind of sideways, looking for support along this kind of key zone around 45.06 Satoshi. I do believe that will require some more retest moving forward as we kind of trade sideways and as Bitcoin kind of figures itself out. This kind of sideways does seem quite bullish, and we are holding against the price of Bitcoin as it figures itself out. And so, as the market kind of stabilizes, Litecoin does seem to be still holding quite nicely and is still seeming quite bullish. When we consider EngineeringRobo along with these fettuccine lines, we can see some kind of key ranges kind of unfolding and a kind of new perspective coming into play. We have this these Fibonacci lines correlating nicely with my purple Satoshi zone there under the 0.5 level, and above the 0.618 is going to be key resistance, I believe, that we were going to have to either kind of skyrocket through or kind of get rejected from. We have significant support above the 0.786 line and kind of like above my my support line around 44.99 Satoshi there. I feel like that's going to be a key range we could bottom out on. We could have some wicks down to the 0.786 line like we have, but this does seem to be like a key bottoming out zone. And so between these two ranges, seems like the sideways we can be bouncing through as we kind of figure things out. On the Bitcoin chart, the price against Bitcoin chart, we have these kind of these nicer sell signals present. The buy 4, the moon, the cloud buy, prices closing above the 200 moving average, the 200 daily moving average. And so this is all quite long-term bullish, in my opinion, for the price of Litecoin against Bitcoin, and does suggest we can very much gain against Bitcoin in the upcoming future. And so this is still quite a bullish sign. We don't have the very scary sell signals on the Bitcoin chart like we do on the USDT chart. And so this is giving me still the long-term bullish outlook that allows me to believe that we can hold through all the scary sell signals. And so unless we start seeing some more sell signals on the price against Bitcoin chart, then my analysis will have to change. But until then, I am still long-term bullish on Litecoin. Say we consider the price of Bitcoin against US dollar tether on the Binance chart, we can kind of see what's really going on here. Now, very nice recovery, very nice bounce, very nice support found off of these kind of key zones. And so when we turn on the fear and FOMO zone, let's get some of these other kind of indicators out of the way for a moment. what we consider kind of price action moving right now, along with these Fibonacci, Fettuccine, Fibbo Lamborghini lines. We can see prices interacting kind of nicely with these kind of purple zone here, Fibonacci lines, along with my support and resistance. And so I see support found around 48K, like 49K there. Came up, retested this Fibonacci kind of level there, just above the sort of 51.7 kind of line, 51K to 52K there. Came back down, nice bounce. Now we're coming up to interact with the 57K resistance, which I suspect we're going to have another perhaps mini pullback over the next kind of couple days. Unless we just fly absolutely through it and get rejected off of what I believe 59K will be the next kind of coming resistance, in my opinion. This could be some sideways that we trade in moving forward. Price action could look like this. I doubt we're going to recover vertically like that. I do believe we're going to have some sort of kind of reaccumulation and pullback, but the market is recovering very nicely, and Bitcoin is still looking very bullish in the long term. We have the FOMO zone all the way up there at 85K, 85.3 almost. And so as the FOMO zone rises, the kind of more bullish we can be on Bitcoin long term, in my opinion. And upon interacting with the FOMO zone, we'll see a very volatile state. We'll either have the kind of blow off top of the market, or we will see all-time highs around 100K and 6 figures plus kind of thing. And so the FOMO zone is going to be a very, very volatile range that we're going to have to look out for, and I do believe we're going to be interacting with in the upcoming weeks to months here, perhaps sooner than you might expect. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for hearing my analysis. Try EngineeringRobo, free, link in the description. Subscribe here on YouTube. Check out all the social media down below, and tune in for the next one.